Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, major airlines apologize amid the Senate investigation into a spate of passenger complaints on flight delays and cancellations. Lawmakers push for the creation of a Magna Carta for airline passengers as complaints against a local carrier pile up. Civil Aeronautics Board Executive Director Carmelo Arcilla joins us in the show. And a digital advocacy group is concerned if Filipino workers will be affected by Grab's massive layoffs. Digital Pinoy's national campaigner Ronald Gustilo tells us more later in the program. Local airlines vowed to implement measures to mitigate flight disruptions after a Senate panel lodged a probe into the barrage of passenger complaints over systemic flight delays and cancellations. Committee Chair Senator Nancy Binay decried what appeared to be a new modus of local carriers that cancel flights without explanation to minimize costs. Lawmakers also questioned the Civil Aeronautics Board, or CAB, after learning that airlines had a limitless overbooking capacity. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Civil Aeronautics Board Executive Director Carmelo Arcilla. Attorney, it's good to see you again after so long. Welcome to the source, sir.
Good morning, Miss Pinky, and I'm glad to be with you again after a long time.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Yeah, but not on such great news, of course. The Senate investigation last Wednesday, where there was a lot of interest among the public. Of course, everyone has one way or another been affected by either cancellations, delays, etc., or overbooking, or even offloading. But first and foremost, Attorney, let's talk about what is the responsibility of the Civil Aeronautics Board. What are your tasks and responsibilities?
Okay. The Civil Aeronautics Board is the agency of government that regulates the economic aspect of civil aviation in the Philippines. It is if you want to compare our charter with that of the LTFRB, it's kind of similar. We take care of the routes, the fares, and the other economic issues involving the operation of airlines, their fitness, their capability to operate. So we issue what we call a certificate of public convenience and necessity, similar to what is issued by the LTFRB.
Yeah, I was actually looking at the website. It said supervision, control, and jurisdiction over air carriers and general sales agent and cargo sales. So basically, that's what you said. Sa madaling salita, kinumpara niyo po sa, hinalintulad niyo po sa LTFRB. So ang ginagawa po ng CAB, kayo pong bahala dun sa mga ruta, sa fares. Nako, importante yan. And the fitness, I think you said, of the airlines. Tama ho ba yan? To be able to give them a...
Kasi before you can operate as an airline, you have to establish that you are capable so that we can protect public interest. We do not want airlines that do not have capitalization sufficient enough and other requirements.
Okay, so if we talk about yung mga ruta, pati yung mga fares, ang CAB rin ho ba, attorney, is the one na sumbungan sakaling may overbooking, may cancellation, may delay, may offloading. CAB din ho ba ang dapat puntahan ng mga pasahero?
Yes, this was clearly delineated with the issuance of the Air Passenger Bill of Rights under Joint Administrative Order Number 1 issued by the Department of Transportation and the Department of Trade and Industry in 2012. You will remember that the overall general and exclusive jurisdiction to deal with the consumer issues is the Bureau of Trade Regulation and Consumer Protection. So we have a kind of working relationship with that bureau. In fact, when it comes to like sales promos they also approve them. And of course, they take cognizance of consumer issues. Ours is a more narrow kind of authority. Especially with the Air Passenger Bill of Rights being an administrative agency, our authority is circumscribed under the law, which is rather limited because we are not naman a court of law. Our authority is pretty limited.
So I'm sorry, attorney, I missed that other agency or department that you said that will also look into overbookings, cancellation, and delays, sir. Could you say that again? Which organization is this?
Their jurisdiction is more or less general. Ours is specific. This is the Bureau of Trade Regulation and Consumer Protection, but the bulk of the complaints are handled by us.
So
But
mostly,
in terms of sales promotional schemes, they approve the advertisements. They also approve this promotional campaign program.
yung pong bagsak presyo o piece of fare, yung mga ganon, ito po si Consumer Protection. So with regards to passenger complaints, for the most part, it's the cab.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, let's look into the various issues that were discussed the other day, attorney. Overbooking. So I was looking into this. They say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that there is a generally accepted percentage of booking by airlines worldwide. That should apply here in the Philippines as well, but this is where I'm not sure. What I read was that since we institutionalized this air passenger bill of rights, tama ho ba nawala itong supposed to be limit or percentage on overbooking? Could you please explain?
Yes, I will give the perspective. No, overbooking is defined as the practice of selling more seats than the capacity of the aircraft. No, and globally, according to statistics, airlines overbook by an average of 2 to 5%. And what is the rationale behind allowing overbooking on a global scale? No? Because an airline can predict, because of algorithms and past experience, that a certain particular route or flight would have people or passengers who they call it a no-show, or they would cancel their flights very near the flight time. No? Kasi the rules allow for a passenger to cancel his or her flight at least 2 hours before the flight. Most airlines do that. So the rationale is, if these seats would fly empty, remember that these seats are time sensitive and they are perishable, and then when the aircraft flies, then the seats go down the drain. No? So what are the advantages? The advantages is, if you fly with a fuller plane, of course, the airline would be able to optimize its revenue.
Okay.
It's a revenue management practice. And number two, the global regulators recognize the public interest value of overbooking. Number one is, if you fly with a fuller plane, then you do not, those empty seats that would be the aircraft that would fly with empty seats, those seats would be full, and you would be offering more seats to the riding public. I will
Okay.
cite an example.
Attorney.
For example, in the
Attorney, sorry,
NAIA,
Attorney, sorry, because we have a lot to cover and we have a limited time. I understand where you're going with this, but you're saying that worldwide, it's acceptable to have a 2 to 5% overbooking. You named some of the reasons why this is allowed, but what is allowed here in the Philippines? Is 2 to 5% also allowed? Or natanggal ho ba ito, as I mentioned a while ago, because of the air passengers' right?
okay. When the Air Passenger Bill of Rights was issued in 2012, there was some kind of a deep discussion during that time, no, between the Department of Transportation, the DTI, and the CEB. And the rationale during that time was that it was not necessary to set a cap for two things, no. Number one, the compensation package that was contained in that APBR, Bill of Rights, was deemed to be an effective counterweight to abuse of overbooking, because overbooking requires that the passenger that would be denied boarding, it's called denied boarding, would be given compensation.
Yeah.
And if on a voluntary basis, this is very critical, no? Because the essence of that rule is that the passengers would not be denied boarding against his will. No?
Okay.
So the essence is, if there is overbooking, an announcement will be made at the boarding gates, and then
They will
the
offer.
announcer will
They will
make
offer.
an offer.
Yeah, yeah.
And when there are no takers, they will improve the offer until they are able to get volunteers.
Okay.
No?
So let me go back
Yeah.
to my my question. I need to go on a commercial break, attorney. What is allowed in the Philippines in terms of overbooking? Is it limitless? Because that's basically what I'm understanding. Kasi wala pong cap. Am I correct?
Walang cap. Yeah, walang cap. Dati may cap 10%, ngayon walang cap. But to put it in proper context, it would be counterintuitive if, of course, there's a requirement for compensation. It is counterintuitive for an airline to say, I will overbook 20%, because you will end up at the boarding gate with 20% people, for example, complaining, and you have to compensate for them, provide hotels for them, all the necessities. So that was considered by the crafters, by those who crafted this during that time.
Yeah.
No? And as I said also in the Senate, the different times may require different policies, and this is under review, and of course we defer to the wisdom of the legislators, because they are also coming up with bills which we have been supporting through the years for a more expanded and strengthened.
So just a quick question. Do you think it's time to reimpose a cap? Yes or no, sir?
Yes, because even with this, I call it counterweight of compensation. No, if you have a cap and then you have a counterweight of compensation, then you have two safety valves, so to speak. No, so, but even without the cap, as I said, it is counterintuitive, because you overbook 100 people. What are you going to do with them?
Basically, you're saying that the airlines will lose in the end. I understand where you're getting with this. Na kung sumobra din naman yung kanilang pag-overbook, well, pag masyadong mataas yung overbooking nila, they'll end up having to pay the passengers at a higher rate to which vis-a-vis to which the passenger actually paid for the flight. Okay, so you're for possibly again reimposing a cap on the airlines, but we need to take a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our source today, CAB Executive Director Carmelo Arcilla. Attorney, I hope you don't mind, no, because there's still so much to talk about. So what happened was, there's been so much complaints. And then you said during the Senate investigation that there's been meetings regarding this, I believe, since May, to which medyo na-criticize nga ho kayo dito ni Senator Tulfo. Ano po? So what did you discover during your meetings? Are you planning to sanction or penalize any of the airlines?
Okay, this is an ongoing investigation. And the trigger for these meetings that we had was the flurry of cancellations and delays, that happened. And it coincided with what is happening on a global scale about the flight, the supply chain disruptions, and we looked at the what is happening in the Philippines, and we discovered that our airlines are suffering from this problem. There was delay in the delivery of aircraft that are supposed to be used for the expansion. There was delay in the maintenance time. There were problems with spare parts. And so the airlines, at the core of this is the problem with the Pratt and Whitney engines. No? So I was asked, is this force majeure? I said that, it doesn't get the airlines off the hook, because even assuming that uh, there is, because I say that, number one, it has to be established that there's a causal relationship between that global problem with the equipment and what is or how the airline is performing. Because if the airline, even without that global problem, is really performing very badly, then there is no causal connection there.
Okay.
And number two, the airline is required to do everything within its power to prevent or at least minimize the suffering of the riding public.
Yeah. So what did you discover? Did you see that the airlines were aggressive enough, considering that there was a problem on the supply chain, on the maintenance? I guess, in my simple mind, kung kulang po sa aeroplano, kulang po sa spare parts, kulang po na darating na mga parts para sa maintenance, hindi ho ba dapat wag nang mag-offer ng maraming flights, considering that your fleet or your airplanes are limited at the moment?
Okay, so number one, the instinct of both airlines and the regulators would be flight reduction, no? Service reduction is being done right now. But you have to remember that airlines, they do a lot of forward bookings.
True.
As long as 6 months, 1 year. So these seats have been sold. Many of them were sold early on. No, so it's a matter of an orderly management of the service, so that there will be no surprises. We reminded them, prevent them. You have to notify the affected passengers early on, so that you can spare them with the misery of going to the airport and realizing that the flight was canceled.
Kasi that's been the problem. They're told just hours before, or sometimes they get an email. And the problem is sometimes you don't even check your email. Okay, I just want to go back very quickly, Attorney, to the cap. If we were to impose a cap, what is your recommended cap, from a cap of 2 to 5% overbooking worldwide? Ano ho ang inyong suggestion?
Between 5 and 10.
5 and 10. All right.
Between 5 and 10, because from our experience, from what we read, airlines do not reach that kind of the limit. No, they would not overbook to the limit. And according to experts, the airlines overbook between 2 to 5%.
Attorney, is it time for legislation on this air passenger bill of rights? I know we've been talking about this back in 2012. Ang DOTR noon, DOTC pa ata, Department of Transportation and Communication, yung DOTR na po siya. Is it time to legislate this so that there will be more possibly effective measures and maybe stiffer penalties?
Yes, Pinky, we have been supporting that. And as I said before, there has been a plethora of bills in Congress through the years that we have been called for hearings. We have supported those bills that would expand and, give more teeth to passenger protection. Because at this point, passenger protection in the airline industry is contained in an administrative order.
AO.
And also, the charter of the CAB as an administrative agency is pretty limited. No, we cannot award damages. It's only the courts of law that can really award damages. We can only say, you have to refund the ticket and pay a compensation, an additional compensation of equivalent to the value of that same ticket.
Okay.
No? So we are hamstrung in terms of being able to really go out of our way towards protecting passengers. But we are doing our best given the limited authority. But we wish that there would be legislation through the years. Maybe it's not getting the priority that it should have, but we will always support it.
Maybe finally it will now. There's also the Makabayan Bloc also filed a resolution for the House to look into this problem as well. In the meantime, Civil Aeronautics Board Executive Director Carmelo Arcilla, sir, thank you so much for your time.
Can I have 1 second?
Sure.
A few seconds.
I'll give you 30, sir.
Yeah, just to announce our website, www.cab.gov.ph. Our hotline is 16566. We are also on Facebook, and of course we want the people to connect with us so that we will be on top of the situation in events like this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Call the cab. Magsumbong sa cab, basically, that's what you're saying. Attorney, I hope we'll have another chance for another interview because I know that it's also it's important for you, as you were saying, we had a talk yesterday, that the passengers call the cab and complain with the cab. Kaya lang there are a lot of issues and possible problems here. People sometimes really don't want to go out of their way. But maybe another time. Thank you again, Attorney Arcilla.
Very much. Opportunity.
We'll be
Have a
taking,
good day.
you too, we'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned.